Hello and welcome to a special edition of the France 24 debate. I'm François Picard. We're by the banks of the Bosphorus. Here it's Europe. Right over there, it's Asia. Turkey. We've been walking around the streets on this blistery January day. We see how vibrant it is. Average wealth has tripled in the past decade. You really get a sense of that. But you also get a sense of a lot of uncertainty right now. After last May's Gezi Park protests, the Prime Minister, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, responding to a widening graft probe with a wholesale purge of the judiciary and the police. Is Turkey, so admired in the Arab world after the Arab Spring, still today a winner-takes-all democracy? What is the future of the Islamist-rooted AK party? And which way is Turkey leaning? Towards Europe or the Orient? Today in the France 24 debate, the Turkish model put to the test. And with us to talk about it, we're doing this show in partnership with Hürriyet Daily News, whose editor-in-chief is Murat YETKIN. Murat, welcome. Hürriyet,
thank you.
Not just an English language newspaper.
No, actually Hürriyet is a Turkish language paper. It's one of the biggest, most influential in Turkey, and Hürriyet Daily News is an English language paper and the same, under the same roof. It's one of the biggest media institutions in Turkey.
All right, we're also pleased to welcome another journalist, Nagehan ALÇI. You're a columnist with Milliyet. The Turkish media has been in the spotlight a lot the last 6 months. Perhaps we'll get a chance to talk about it later on, but there's certainly no shortage of news right now.
There never was, but especially these days, we can say that we're living an exciting life.
An exciting life, and it probably have to rewrite the textbooks then that our next guest, Ihsan YILMAZ, who teaches at Fatih University, who teaches political science, might have to do. Ihsan, your university is associated, I guess, with one of the main protagonists in the current crisis.
Yes, it is affiliated with the Gülen movement, but it is a liberal art college. So we have all sorts of staff from all sorts of different ideologies, and this is the same for the students as well.
The Gülen movement of the US-based cleric Fethullah Gülen, who has been at odds, it's an understatement, with the Prime Minister. And finally, let us welcome, she is 24 years old. You don't mind me saying your age.
It's fine, it's 24. Right.
We're in the presence of Aysegul BAYAR. Aysegul BAYAR, you work with the Infakto survey group. You've just graduated from university.
Yeah, exactly. I just made my master's in France and get back to Turkey 3 months ago. And I'm working as a researcher in Infakto right now.
All right, we were saying in the introduction how Turkey can seem still today like a winner-takes-all democracy. We went to the streets of Istanbul and asked folks how they feel Turkey's democracy is doing.
If we didn't have all these internal conflicts, Turkey would be on a roll. The objectives are clear. In other words, Turkey keeps progressing.
Even though we're living in a democracy, in actual fact, it isn't one. The people can't express themselves freely, and they can't live their lives the way they want.
It's all gone pear-shaped. Instead of turning towards the west, we're drifting towards the orient.
If the population continues to mature culturally, whether you like it or not, democracy will be there.
If the AKP wasn't trying to bury this corruption scandal, we'd be on the right track. Good things could have happened, but that's not how it's looking. And I see myself as an optimist.
Murat YETKIN, should that woman be pessimistic or optimistic?
I think she is realistic because people are expecting that the corruption allegations should not be covered and the judicial procedure should not be stopped until the end. I think that is the main axis of debate now in Turkey. Otherwise, yes, there are good things happening in economy, in democratization, but you put it very well. Turkish people, most of the Turkish people doesn't want a winner-takes-all kind of democracy. And a transparent administration is a part of it. And since we are trying to become a member of European Union, transparency and judicial independence and media freedom, I would add, are basic parts of it, basic components of it. So I'd agree with the lady. I mean, if we can overcome certain problems, the flow would be smoother.
There was two former U.S. ambassadors a couple of days ago in the Washington Post. They wrote a column where they said that Erdogan right now is, quote, destroying Turkey's parlous democracy. Do you agree with that?
I don't, because first of all, we have to start to ask ourselves whether there is really a really rooted pluralistic democracy in Turkey. I would say no, but Turkey has come a long road from the past, looking to the way of achieving a real pluralistic democracy. Of course, there are some problems, and there have been maybe more problems in the last days, if you look at the recent developments. But I think when we look back to the old days where a military tutelage was not to be overseen in Turkey, I would say that we have come a long way. What we see in Turkey now is just, there has been corruption allegations, and there has been some corruption always in Turkey. But if we ask ourselves, why were there no steps taken for many years concerning corruption, then we would say maybe in these days everybody wants to clarify who is engaged in corruption scandals. If it's that grave, how it's claimed, then it should come to clarity.
So what you're saying is that the timing of this probe is suspicious.
I would say that the size and the timing would mean that it is aimed to some political goal, and we should ask ourselves, can judiciary have a political goal in normal functioning democracies or not?
Ihsan, do you agree?
I don't, because even judiciary has a political goal, then the solution is with judiciary as well and the separation of powers. When we look at the constitutional reform package offered by AKP to the parliament last year, we saw that they were trying to create a presidential system in Turkey that would unite powers instead of separating it, and the president would have an authority to even enact laws when the parliament is not session, and appointing almost all of the judiciary together with the parliament. Till the 2010, AKP was the most liberalizing and democratizing force in Turkey. But since 2010, because of the constitutional reform package that was confirmed by the people, the constitutional court structure was changed. So it is now almost impossible, practically impossible, to close down a party. So AKP is no longer afraid of the generals. Some of them are in prison because of the coup charges, and AKP is no longer afraid of the constitutional court. So since 2010, unfortunately, there are all sorts of signs showing that there are authoritarian tendencies, and this presidential reform package offered by AKP to the parliament shows that they have a tendency to create a kind of Putinistic system in Turkey. And Erdogan's chief advisor, Yiğit repeatedly said that in the world there are only 2.5 world leaders. One of them is Putin, the other one is Erdogan, and the half is Obama. And Constitutional Commission's head, the AKP's deputy, Burhan Kuzu, repeatedly said that Obama is a loser, he is a desperate person, and he is weak because of the checks and balances and separation of powers.
Aysegul, what is your feeling? Is there an authoritarian bent to Turkey's prime minister, or is this score settling that's going on?
First of all, I would like to add something about the corruption debate. It feels very weird to me, and also to many people in the society, that we are so much normalizing the corruption in Turkish Republic, and we are just speaking about who just bring it up on the surface. This shouldn't exist in a democratic state, first of all. And I think since the third election of AKP government, Erdogan became very, very authoritarian. He has an overexposition in media, for example. This is, I find again sad and weird. I think it's very clear that Turkey is really authoritarian right now.
Murat, YETKIN?
The concentration of powers is a real problem. The concentration of powers in the executive power is a real problem here. The overexposure in media by Erdogan is actually going towards an overdose problem. So soon, if it goes like this, whatever our Prime Minister will say live on TV, all national TVs are broadcasting live, whatever he says, I think it will have no effect. It will start to have no effect because people will get accustomed to it. I mean, Erdogan appears on screens a few times a day, almost from day to day. At one point, 5 live coverage at a weekend on Saturday. I remember a few weeks ago. Anyway, the concentration of powers into one hand is a serious tendency here, and I agree with YILMAZ on this last debate in Parliament, the bill on judges and prosecutors board to have more political control over it. President Gül and Parliamentary Speaker Çiçek have also expressed their concerns about it, Constitutional Court as well, and European Union too. So
wait, there are checks and balances because that bill has been frozen.
For the time being, yes, there are some checks and balances, and we want to keep them like that, and even more strengthened.
Why is the Prime Minister so virulent, talking about plots, talking about conspiracies? He's very, very virulent in his rhetoric.
Yeah, maybe I should start rather with a couple words about the structure of the Turkish media. I agree with some comments what Murat YETKIN did, but I guess with this discussion, we have to start with maybe with the structure of the media, with the relations between the media owners and the government, and the size of the government, of the state. If the state is that big, and if the media owners and the government officials should cooperate in some things, then these problems occur. I think we should revise the media structure in Turkey at all, and the size of the state should be minimized from a liberal perspective, so that also the corruption and the structure of the media problems, etc., would be maybe solved. But Mr. Yilmaz said that Erdogan is not afraid of the generals anymore. That's true. As I also told before, the military tutelage has been overcome in Turkey, and that was a big achievement concerning Turkish democracy. But nowadays, our Prime Minister is afraid not of the generals, but of the imams, the religious persons who are said to be in control in critical parts of the government institutions. For example, a journalist called Ahmet Şık, who wrote a book about those imams, and the book was called The Army of Imam. He was arrested because he wrote a book, and I brought the book with me. And inside of all this, there are details, informations about who is in which institutions, who infiltrated critical positions of the government. And this book was later also, it couldn't be published with the name The Army of Imam. That's why it's published under a different name. And another journalist who was also a friend of Ahmet Şık and who was arrested at the same time with Ahmet Şık was Nedim Şener, who is actually an old journalist also working on corruption issues. And he says it's not new that since AKP, the Justice and Development Party, came to power, that corruption occurs. But he thinks that, I also brought his interview, he says that this one, which started on the 17th of December, the corruption issue is now secondary, he says, in the interview which he gave to Al Monitor. He says one really needs to see that the Jemaat is actually, that's the group which is actually connected to Gülen, the community, we can say. One really needs to see, he says, that the Jemaat is actually directly aiming at Erdogan. It simply showcases that it's grown so strong that it can even bring down the country's prime minister when it wants to. So I think there are two issues now going on hand in hand with, in Turkey.
Ihsan Yilmaz, is there a dark force with the Gülenist movement that's trying to bring down the government?
There is not, and till the 17th December corruption case, the government had never complained about such a structure, and the government always said that the Gülen movement is a good movement and they send greetings to Gülen several times. They visited him several times, and they always highly spoke of Gülen and the movement always, and they participate in their all sorts of organizations. But since the corruption cases started, they simply instantly discovered a dark force, and they did this same thing with this conspiracy theory during the Gezi Park incidents as well. And instead of criticizing himself by trying to build a smallest plot in Taksim Square, a big shopping center, Erdogan said that these protests were organized by the help of CIA, Mossad, Jewish lobby. Even his chief advisor blamed Lufthansa Airlines because they were jealous of the Turkish Airlines. So the same thing is being employed here, but there is an additional element here, Hizmet movement, Gülen movement, because the AKP doesn't want us to talk about the corruption cases. They never reply to the corruption cases. There are hard and concrete evidence about the corruption. They never mention this. They never deny this. They use Hizmet movement as a smoke screen. Of course, the journalists must not be tried when in detention because they don't have guns and so on. But Erdogan and his government never criticized imprisonment of these journalists in the past. They never. But now they are using this simply to dilute the discussion and to simply distract the attention of the public opinion.
Murat, YETKIN, the outcome of all of this, whether or not it's score settling and how much of it is genuine, is we see people are staying under the radar. They don't want to get too involved. And we see, for instance, is already...
People meaning?
People who normally would speak out are being very camera shy, I've noticed, on this.
Well, it depends on what kind of people you want them to speak to you. We're now talking about two issues. One is the corruption cases, the graft probe on December 17, which started on December 17, and the aftermath, the fight between the government and the judiciary, as Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu put it in an interview, in the form of the fight between government and judiciary, but people tend to perceive this as the fight within AK Party, Justice and Development Party, the core of the party represented by Erdogan, and the Gülen's Hizmet movement, as they call themselves, which has been regarded up until very recently as a hidden coalition partner of AK Party. But now, because of this demonization campaign, I would call. I mean, now it's Gülen movement.
It's a wholesale discussion about Turkey's democracy. I'm going to have to cut you off.
Then it was military. So
I'm going to have to cut you off because we're going to have to take a quick break. We'll pick up
Sure.
on this point. Stay with us. You're watching a special edition of the France 24 debate from Istanbul.